Greetings and salutations. I have decided to play something a little different. It's a scary game, or should be slightly haunting. I don't know if scary is the word for it. I'm not really sure. I've never heard of this game. I was going through some, I don't know if it was free or on sale on Steam. I'm not really certain. But it's called Dagon. And it's based on a tale of the same name, a short story of the same name by H.P. Lovecraft, and I am a Lovecraft fan. I do enjoy his works. It's based, if memory serves, it's based during World War One. It's about a man who is addicted to morphine, and he is sailing in some cargo ship in some well-traveled waters, and his ship gets overrun by a German sea raider, and he escapes on a lifeboat, and this is the recounting of what took place during this endeavor to get away from the German ship. I believe it is loosely based on mayhaps the Philistine legend of Dagon. So we'll see. It should prove to be interesting. I don't know how well I'll do. I've never played a game like this before, so we'll see. I don't scare well. My best friend likes watching me watch people play scary games because I jump and scream, and she says it's more entertaining than the video itself. So, this could make for an interesting time. I don't know. We'll see. Let's just dive right in. Okay, so Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along the plot. I can't get lost. In theory. We'll see. I'm very talented. Okay.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Okay. I need to turn the volume up so that you all can hear this. I know that I have it really low. So let's click that so I can come over here. And I'm going to turn this up a bit. I don't know how much to turn it up. I'm going to do it. We'll see. Alright, but he said I'm writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more. Okay, during the game you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey, others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. I like that. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look around for the Elder sign. Okay, we'll see. I'm not sure how good I am at actual puzzles and things, or trivia, depending on the topic. We'll see. Okay. Oh, it's first person. Oh, I hate first person. Okay, do I use... How do I guess I don't move, I just click.
Penniless,
Yes.
and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Okay, we have means and desire to take our own life. Which, I didn't give away too much of the story. I do know the story, and some of you may, but I didn't want to, I could tell you everything that happens in the story, but I shan't, because I want you to enjoy the game. Okay. We have a tin of perhaps what had been sardines, and maybe baked beans, a lantern, some medicinal bottles of sorts. This is not the most lovely of residences. A sack with another 10, some books. Oh, I
Do
can
not
click.
think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
We are, like I said, he is addicted to morphine.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
He's a troubled soul, that is for sure. Which, if... Ooh, my coffee cup is not doing right. A bit of spillage. My apologies. I will make a mess. It's part of my charm. He is troubled, but based on the recounts of what he tells us, if there's an iota of truth, or he genuinely believes it to be, I can understand his distress. Okay, and here's my quill. This must be the elder thing I was talking about. Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War, 1861 through 1865, and the World War I, or in World War I, 1914 through 1918. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. That's a terrifying thought. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Frederick Serturner, we're going to say, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. Interesting. You can read the discovered trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Turn off displaying trivia if you find the feature distracts you from the story. This can be changed at any time in the options. I would like to continue the bits of trivia. I actually enjoy them. I enjoy learning more as I go. I apologize if it bothers anybody else and takes away from the immersion of the tale, but I, for one, do enjoy them, and I know that if I have them displayed in the main menu at a later time, I will not go back and read them. I know myself that well. So, we will keep them as is. If I feel there are too many and it becomes a wee bit tedious, mayhaps I will update the settings and review them later in my own leisure. I won't review them later in my own leisure. Okay, but I like that they give us the option. Okay. My pen and quill. Or my quill.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Okay. I'm limited in my turning of head, which I appreciate.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bow, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on July 27, 1900, before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago, the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. I apologize if I read a word incorrectly. Some of these I've never seen before. Okay, that is interesting. I was confused when it said Huns. I'm not as well versed in all the wars as I should be, which is a sad shame, because I was like, I know who the Huns are from a Chinese standpoint, but I was not aware of this. I am enjoying these fun facts. Okay.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Here are my provisions.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Yes, we're under the night sky. Oh, there's the sun.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Interesting. Ooh, I heard something.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
That would be scary.
The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Is this the dream? Oh my word. That is unsettling. Harley, what do you think?
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
I can imagine, yeah, if I awoke and sat up and found myself in this condition, oh my word, it is unsettling.
For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
Wow.
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
You can't get on the desk. I'm sorry. You may sit as you were before. This is quiet. I know the story, but seeing this, a visualization adds depth.
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Is there something for me to click? Harley, can you sit still, please? My sweet kitty. You're killing me. Oh, my boat. Oh, squelching.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
And what theory might that be? Pray tell, good sir.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
I mean, that's more logic than I would ever apply. The undulating. That's what gets me. It's the undulating.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
They're awfully movie for dead things. It's a lot of gross. But dead fishy.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens. As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Interesting.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Yeah. The smell of fish in general is unpleasant to the nostrils. I cannot imagine the smell of decaying dead fish. Especially if the tale rings true and this genuinely... This is all this is fiction anyway, but like the concept of it being the ocean floor would make it so stinky, possibly sticky too. Oh, squelching.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
It's gross. Forward march. It's a free willy. I'm sorry, free willy.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it. By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
Checks out. Objects in distance are bigger than they appear.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again.
I get that. I get that. I've had some terrible dreams. And I'm like, that's enough sleep. That's enough. Oops, I'm sorry, Mr. Dragon.
And in the glow of the moon, I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
Makes sense.
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Oh, I guess I should pick up my pack.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
I can't really look down, sorry. It won't let me.
I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Yeah, I was curious about that cube. I don't like the squelching.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Let's go.
For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Interesting. And for those who don't know, a monolith is, well, it's basically what we're looking at. It's something that's been shaped into, like a stone that's been shaped into like a beam or a pillar. That's the word I was looking for, a pillar, not a beam. Like a monument of some sort. That's what a monolith, monument, I think that's the root word there somewhere. Oh. My face, my nose hardly was up here, and I got cat hair, and so everything is itchy, so I apologize.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that chasm.
Well, there are symbols. Like, I want to say hieroglyphs because it looks like oceanic depictions. Like, I see mer people, I see ocean critters and life forms. It's interesting.
And revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world.
See that symbol in the center there? It's a wee bit unsettling to look upon.
But whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Let's look at this. I'm curious. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountain of Madness, The Nameless City. These are other short stories. Journals and characters' notes, The Shadow Out of Time, The Hunter of the Dark, Islands Emerging from the Ocean, The Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Migo in The Whisperer in Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the detail in order not to spoil the ending. See, I didn't tell you how it ends on purpose.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto.
Yeah, this is years and years ago. Like, this story was written, it was written over 100 years ago. It was written in the early 1900s, between 1915 and 1920, I think. So I don't know how the common knowledge of like merfolk was, because it's not based in that year, obviously.
Or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail.
But I want detail. I like detail.
For the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
Might be a Poe.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seemed to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Interesting.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
I don't see it yet. Oh, there's movement there.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
It's going to pass away. Slid, that was a jump.
Loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith.
That was not a slither.
About which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. I think I went mad then.
But imagine.
Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little. I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
Hey, I got an accomplishment for clicking.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe. Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist.
An ethnologist is someone who studies, like, countries and cultures, like how languages came to be, how the origin of places, essentially, which I think is cool.
And amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Dagon, or Dagon, was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquest. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prisoner warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's work, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that reside in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Astoric Order of Dagon. Interesting. What do I click next? Oh, the armoire.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
think the game is pretty. Like, it's not like the most detailed and refined, like, realistic imagery, but I do think it's pretty. August, Derleth, and the Cthulhu Mythos. August, I'm guessing Derleth, was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horrors. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Interesting. What a lovely bust. Is there nothing to click over here? Just a lovely clock telling me it's about 8 past 8? No, 8 past 10. I can't read their little hand.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Let's see here. Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with a friend, Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated 13th of February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to. Having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coercions, I know that word and I can't say it, the delicate, natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition. Though the prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as of any other. The source is The Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft's letter to, I'm assuming, Zelia Brown, Reed, Bishop H.P. Lovecraft, Sean Brainey, and Andrew Lehman, St. Joshi. Again, I apologize for my butchering of words. My dyslexia kicks in, and again, I have not seen some of these words before. There's nothing else to click aside from the morphine. Okay.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite.
That's unsettling.
I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
That would be quite unsettling.
The end is near.
Oh, I don't like that. It's the squelching.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it. It shall not find me. God, that hand! The window! The window!
Well then, we hope you enjoyed immersing yourself into our little pool of cosmic horror. We'd appreciate it if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out our other games and DLCs. That's interesting. I may investigate their others. I did enjoy that. As far as like a game, I wouldn't consider it a game per se. I guess it's more of a story. But I, for one, enjoyed the story. These are the kind of stories that I like. I grew up reading a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. I do enjoy like Shakespeare and things of that nature. So this is the kind of tale and short writings that I do often, enjoy upon leisure and good old times. So this was a delightful little thing. I did like it. I know it wasn't as much of a game.
And scary stories have been accompanying men for centuries. They have many faces and forms, but what is their purpose? Why do we enjoy being afraid so much? During our therapy, I'll try to
I guess that was a preview for another game. Took me by surprise. Did I miss any? Well, I guess I missed some. I thought I did rather well. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I think that it was a lovely little tale. I liked the storytelling. I liked the arts, like the landscapes and how they were depicted, the floundering and squelching, though the squelching was a bit unsettling. It's not one of my favorite noises. I do like saying the word, if you haven't noticed, squelching. It's a lovely word to say. But no, it was a very interesting tale. A very interesting tale. I do love H.P. Lovecraft, and I thank you for watching with me and letting me butcher many words and stumble over many phrases and point and click through the screen. So I hope you enjoyed it. More to come soon. I do imagine I'll have some other things that I'll play. I'm just trying to find something that I enjoy, a niche of sorts, I guess. I don't know. I like to play particular styles of games, and I'm trying to branch out from that. So who knows what'll be on here. It's going to be a smorgasbord of content, to say the least. But until next time, I thank you for being a part of my little adventure. Have a great one.